Hey folks, hope you're having a marvellous day. It is time for some more hobby nightmares. But if you like what I do, please like the video. It would be huge for my little YouTube channel if you could like the video, because every time you do, it bumps it up in YouTube just a little bit, so more people can get some stuff out of Hobby Nightmares. So if you've ever been helped by Hobby Nightmares, if you've ever had fun here, then make sure you do like the video. It means the world to me when you do so, and it costs you nothing. It's just a little click down there where you click the like, and off we go to a brighter tomorrow. Or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's jump into some Hobby Nightmares, shall we? With Banjo, and he says, "Hey North, call me Banjo. I'm the same Banjo from the Coaster Drop Pod story from the other day. Ek, who was another person who wrote in Hobby Nightmares, said I should share some of my encounters and stories about Jensen. Wink wink, fake name. If I were a pettier man, I'd share his real name. And I'm more than happy to oblige. I'm no writer, but I'll give it a shot. Also, I hope your granddad's doing alright. He's doing fine, man. Yeah, we're keeping him on the straight and narrow. We're doing okay. A bit about me. The first tournament organiser from the story is actually a friend of mine who originally got me into Warhammer around 5 years ago, after my precious D&D/board game group fell apart due to some internal drama. A horror story for another time, I'm sure. And I was welcomed into a new group of friends who helped me learn the hobby. Alright. I searched through YouTube to learn about Warhammer lore and gameplay, and about all of the factions, and the orcs really resonated with me and just plain made me laugh. I found their power of belief, making weapons and vehicles work, and warping reality hilarious. Gork, or possibly Mork, had recruited a new boy to their war. That's great, man. That's awesome. And to be honest with you, the orcs are probably the most 40k really well-written faction that there is. In a way that they're super elegant. They're kind of like the ogres in fantasy, right? Everything about them bleeds into what they are as a faction, and I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. Shows that Games Workshop can do it as well, if they really want to. This all happened during the early parts of the COVID era, near the end of 8th edition, so a lot of game shops had their gaming areas closed and were only doing purchases. So, we'd come around to each other's homes and have paint days or just play games. I painted like a mad boy to have enough points to match up to the group for the 2,000 point games that they played. I cut my teeth on the Combat Patrol games way back when, and they weren't a set list like they are now. I learned the hard way that the transports are essential in an orc army after getting nearly tabled in one turn of shooting. Yeah, a friend of mine used to call it the party bus. Yeah, Gazgul's party bus. Side note, styrofoam packaging from appliance boxes making great terrain. Eventually, a new branch of a local shop opened near me, so we started meeting there. We joined the local Discord and started getting games in with new people. Eventually, we had a nice little community of guys, mostly. Here enters Jensen. My first encounter with the man. A couple of years ago, on one of the Warhammer days at the shop, I'm sitting there on my phone and I'm approached by a little middle-aged potato man. Okay. Very cheerfully he asked if I had had a game yet. I said I was looking, and he said he had his army out in his car. I said let's do it. I wish I hadn't, but I had no way of knowing what I was in for. He returns with the cardboard box and sets it on the table. As I'm setting up the board, he starts pulling out his models. His unprimed, unpainted, half-built, half-missing, even-head Space Marines. Even his vehicles didn't have the top turrets on them. Big zogging red flag, I know. I figured he was new to the game, so gave him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to be honest with you now, man. Playing 40k is a big energy and time sink for me, right? So, if I come across this guy, I'm most likely going to be like, man, I don't want to be that guy, but your army isn't finished, right? I've spent loads of time on mine. I will help you finish your army, but I can't play with an army like this. I want to play an army, right? I don't want to play random bits that are plonked on a table. I know that sounds horrible. It sounds elitist, but my hobby time is precious, and I don't want to spend it doing this. I know that's really selfish of me. I know it is, but I just can't, man. I can't. I've spent all my time doing this. I'm not gonna. I may as well play a styrofoam box or a can of Diet Coke. You know, I don't know. You know, what do you want me to do? Anyway, so our game began. Guys, do you think I'm being elitist there? Let me know in the comments. So our game began. He was playing Salamanders and I was playing the Death Schools at the time. Now, North, I am generally an easygoing guy. I get along with most people and play orcs. So I give the least amount of monkeys. But never have I ever had so much hatred so soon after meeting somebody. Okay. The first of his irritating tendencies was his nervous laugh that he'd do after saying things that weren't even funny. Like a parrot mimicking a human. That will wound on a 3+. My rhino will shoot into your boys. Etc. Okay, I want to play this guy now again. I don't know. I just cracked me up. I just stopped giggling every time he did it. The next was him quickly rolling dice before I could see what the results were. Okay, he's back off the list. In addition to dice symbols being hard to see. Dude, the Nurgle dice are the worst for that. The Nurgle dice are cheaters' dice. If I see Nurgle dice... No. Especially if you're not playing a Nurgle army. You come at me with Nurgle dice and you're playing Eldar, get out of here, man. Get out of here. And then came the rules disagreements. At one point, he said I couldn't shoot with a unit because there were too many modifiers on it. I had to explain to him that in the current edition, a 6 always succeeded and a 1 always failed. He'd say, well, back in 7th edition, that's not how it worked. I'd remind him that we were in a newer edition. We had several other rules disagreements, I can't remember what about, but it would always be a cycle of him referring to old edition rules. He also said that his salamanders had a 2-foot range with a flame weapon. I thought that seemed like a lot, but salamanders / fire, that's kind of their thing lore-wise, so I didn't question it that much. Don't know if that's true, never played again as Space Marines. A 2 foot? No, it's not. By turn 2 or 3, I was quite fed up and felt physically ill from being around him. I genuinely believe he is a real-life energy vampire like Colin from What We Do in the Shadows. I didn't care who won or lost. I just wanted it to be over, but I didn't want to be the guy who takes his models and goes home. I remained civil through the rest of the game. I honestly don't remember how it ended, but I was pretty happy that it was done with. After he packed up and left, my tournament organiser friend, who worked there at the time, came over and said, "Ah, dude, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. That was rough to watch." I said, "You know what? I am never going to play that guy again in open play or a league. That was mentally draining." I went home, took some aspirin, and went to bed. The next week, I was back at the store. Dude, this guy is an energy vampire. The next week, I was back at the store and talking to one of the older players who had been in the hobby for a few decades and told him about my game. He said that reminded him of a guy he played a decade ago that his local group would call Tyrannid Douchebag. He would pull a lot of the same crap Jensen did, and as he was finishing up his story, Jensen had pulled up in the parking lot and was walking to the store. I pointed him out to the older player and he said, "That's the same guy." I was in awe. This asshole had been pulling the same stuff for probably 20 years. Oh my god. I never played Jensen again, and had to sadly watch others play him. I also took the liberty to warn them before they did so. I have a few other stories that I either witnessed or heard from other people about him, such as him playing a game against a Harlequins player. When moving one of his units, his shirt sleeve caught on the tip of his opponent's models and accidentally broke a piece off. Instead of saying, "Oh, my bad," or actually apologising, he looked at the player and said, "Oh, well, you should have glued your model better." My blood would have boiled if he had said that to me. Also, to understand how awful it was playing against him, in another game, he was Tyrannid and his opponent was playing Tau. By probably turning 2 or 3 of the what? Sorry? Oh, okay. By probably turning two... No, again, the way things are written sometimes makes me just... My mind can bobulate and explode. By probably turn 2 or 3, The Tau player was so sick of playing him that he charged Tyranids with his Tau just to end the game quicker. He also didn't care if he won or lost, he just wanted his suffering to end. Also, of the several armies I saw Jensen play, not a single model was painted or finished. Eventually, Jensen was banned from participating in all leagues and store events, but not open play. But I think at that point, he knew he wouldn't get a game from anybody after his reputation was that well known. I had heard he'd been banned from most of the game shops in our city, and haven't seen him in several years, and I hope to never see him again. Screw that git. My war continues to grow. I think I'm around 7,000 points now and counting. North, I love your videos. I listen to them most days whilst I'm working. I love hearing about all those hobby weirdos. It makes me feel like a normal human being. Keep up the good work. Well, like the video then. Like the video, my friend. It helps out. It really does. Next, we have Cromwell. Is it Oliver Cromwell? We'll see. Are you leading any roundhead armies around here? Let's dive in. Hello. You can call me Cromwell for the sake of my anonymity. Long-time listener here. I was listening to the show last week when I realised the story about Jensen, Eck and Banjo was familiar to me as I was the tournament organiser in question for that event. What is going on? What is going on? This is crazy. What? You actually appeared in the last Hobby Nightmare I just read out. This is awesome. This is great. I love this. Alright. Inception. Hobby Nightmares. Alright, cool. Our club has referred to that incident as the Drop Site Massacre for years now, and it was crazy to see it out in the wild. Anyway, I actually have other hobby stories related to that particular individual, Jensen. Oh my god. This poor dude's getting annihilated from like separate Hobby Nightmares about the same. This is the first time this has ever happened. Separate Hobby Nightmares about the same dude. This is crazy. Alright, I just can't. This is awesome. Actually, I have other horror stories related to that particular individual, Jensen, leading up to his banishment from the organisation. Oh, okay. Alright, so we're getting the inside scoop now, what was going on. The Drop Site Massacre was the first of a handful of incidents that occurred that resulted in his swift banning from the club. For those of you who weren't here last week, the Drop Site Massacre, essentially, Jensen used what I can only describe as, cans of, I think it was like cans of Coke or something, or whatever else he was using. Anyway, he used something really ridiculous as a drop pod, and his opponent went along with it because, as you do. For a little context, we were a fairly new club still trying to get their footing in an area that had previously not had a strong 40k presence. To this day, Jensen is the first and only person to be banned and is responsible for us writing our code of conduct, league rules, and the overall accountability between our members. Well, that's good. Mate, I'll tell you what. Jensen's done some good. Okay? And this is why I think we actually need bad operators in the hobby, because you need to know why the rules exist. And guys like Jensen show you why the rules exist, right? And why you should have rules. Anyway. And why you should gatekeep. And moving on. We have now grown to over 200 members, and our league nights usually pack our local games store. So all in all, a happy ending there, I suppose. I wanted to provide a sequel to Jensen's antics, with one of the incidents that caused his banning from the group. So, to give even more background, Jensen was fairly new to our store at the time of the Drop Site Massacre. And I think that might have been his first... I think this might have been the first league that he actually participated in. His first visit to the store had only been a few months prior when he came in and sat down at a table with that my friends were playing at. We will call them BC and Tyler. Alright, BC and Tyler. I wonder why BC? I guess we'll find out. Long story short, he started providing commentary and completely wrong advice to Tyler, who was playing his first ever game. BC, who is teaching Tyler how to play, is a competitive strongman and a Viking-looking, heavy metal huge boy. He turned to Jensen and said point blank, "You were not invited to this game. You're giving bad advice and ruining my friend's first game. With all due respect, find your own game or get out of our business." Prompting Jensen to leave in a bit of a huff. From day one, I had my eye on him. Flash forward. he is participating in one of our narrative leagues. For context, we go all out for our narrative events. Story write-ups for battles, players submitting their own stories, lore building, alliances between players, the whole shebang. Dude, where are you? I want to play in this league, where are you? Seriously. By this time we were enforcing much stricter model assembly rules and thought we did have a random, occasionally questionable proxy from our new or younger members, but we rarely had any issues with anybody since the Dropsite Massacre, as nobody wanted to be like Jensen. So for this week in the league, we have a custom game that is a fortress defense where the defending player gets 2 fortifications that double as strategic objectives with their own custom datasheet. Additionally, we provided a template for the fortification, but encouraged players to bring their own if they had something that fit in the theme of their game. Jensen ended up as the defending player in his match, which meant he got to use the fortifications. Seeing that most players were opting to bring or make fortifications, he decided that he would not be outdone and decided to bring 2 mismatched Lego towers. They were little more than 6 by 6 inch bricks of random smattering of colours and designs. I happened to be in the store that day, as our leagues allow for players to play whenever they want, though our assigned day at the shop is Tuesdays, and I see these 2 Lego towers on the board, and I go over and say, Jensen, what is this? Oh, will you encourage people to bring fortifications, so I made some. Right. I mean, you could have just used the templates that are put in the back of the shop and used some of the terrain around it, you know? Yeah, well, if I did that, I wouldn't be able to get a height advantage since the templates are 2D, and I want to put my units on it so I can get heavy cover bonus, and so they cannot be charged since they are 6 inches up and blocking all areas for models to put their bases on. Oh my days. Oh my days. I looked at him and his opponent, fully knowing that I was about to catch him in a gotcha of my own, and I had written the rules for the custom mission type and done an FAQ before the match to clarify any points of contention. Yeah, sorry about that, bud, but if you had read the rules for the game, you'd have seen that you can't place models on the fortifications for this game type, nor garrison troops inside of them, since they are essentially a custom unit. They are meant to be an abstraction of a defense position, which is why we made the templates. So you can go ahead and restart your deployment, as you clearly didn't understand that rule. No problem, no harm, no foul. A big reason why Jensen got away with bad behaviour at the time was because he would present as being very polite and tended to prey on less experienced players who were still figuring out the manners of playing 40k in a club like ours. He would always smile and cut up, but I was well aware of his capacity to turn. His face twisted so sharply into a hateful scowl that you would have thought I had killed his dog. That's not fair. I made my army with that in mind, he said. Well, you should have read the rules then. I'll allow you to make any changes that you need, provided your opponent is allowed to do the same, and you can do so without going home to switch out models. But otherwise, if you have a problem with it, you'll need to either forfeit or reschedule your game, alright? Fine. Can I switch to being the attacker? For context, the attacking army got extra points to play with, and a special stratagem. No, play the hand you are dealt, his opponent said. He grumbled under his breath, but ultimately relented. I stayed around for a bit, keeping an eye on his game, answering questions and holding him accountable for any mistakes that he was making. You know, the usual TO stuff. But after an hour, I headed out as my own game scheduled at a friend's house was later that evening. A few hours later, I got a call from his opponent. Hey man, he said. So, Jensen knocked one of my models off the table during the game by accident and it broke. I'd be able to fix it so it's no issue, but he didn't even apologise for it. He just told me that I needed to be more careful if I was going to play such an expensive hobby. Also, I'm pretty sure the second you left he started cheating. I'm not super familiar with his army, but some of his units just seem to have ranges and move speeds that were way too far from what other armies in the game do. I rolled my eyes. Thanks for letting me know, I'll talk to him. But you gotta also take accountability if you think he's cheating. Call him out. Send me a text, do whatever you gotta do, but you're basically enabling him if you don't stop him at that moment. Yes! Yes, a good learning experience there. Good. Yes. Don't just say you'll sort it out. Say, listen, man, give a guy a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a guy to fish, you know what I mean? Like, you've got to say to him, listen, I'll sort this one out, but next time you've got to call him out. You've got to. Even if you don't think you know the rules, all you need to do, if you don't know the rules of Warhammer 40,000, no problem. Just say, hey man, that seems a bit odd. Can I see it in your codex, please? Or can you show me in a rulebook, please? Where it says that. Because I'd like to use that myself in future. It seems like a really cool, cool rule. If they can't do that, then don't allow them to use the rule. Simple as. Simple as. Simple as that. Anybody can do that. At any skill level. You can start Warhammer the night before a game, right? And in the next game, if something seems off, and you just say, hey man, that sounds a bit really powerful. Can I read that in the codex? Because I might want to use that army or that rule. So, can you show me that in your codex? Or the rule book or whatever? If they can't, then say, yeah man, I'm not comfortable playing with a rule that I can't see. I like you, but we don't know each other that well. So I'd rather just, play with the rules that we can actually show each other. Because I could say anything about my army. I could say we've all got 2+ saves that never get any worse. Anyway. Yeah, I know, he said. It was just such a bad game that I wanted it to be finished. I hang up and call one of the other guys at the local game store and arrange for a formal meeting with Jensen and the shop staff. A few days later, Jensen showed up to play his last league game, and I caught him at the door. Hey buddy, we got to talk in the back. He is immediately on high alert. We get to the back of the shop, and I say, essentially, the following. Hey dude, I've been getting weekly complaints about your behaviour, and I'll be honest, I have seen some red flags myself since you've been playing in our club. You play fast and loose with the rules, you've argued with me about legal play, and your proxies are questionable on the best of days. I want to give you a chance to turn it around and let you know, just in case you were unaware, but you have a terrible reputation in the club, and if it doesn't turn around, then we're going to have to ask you to not play here anymore. Dude, that was such a good way of putting it. Yeah. He immediately launched into a rant about how everybody in the club was dishonest cheaters and elitists who just wanted to gatekeep him out of the hobby like every other club he had been in. There's a common denominator there, isn't there, Jensen? Common denominator. And it's not them. I had found out leading up to this meeting that he'd been banned from several other clubs for similar reasons, and that we were basically his last option in the area. He kept going on about how all young/new people who don't know about older editions, and they need to show him some respect since he'd been in the hobby for 30-something years. I let him get it out of his system before following up with the following, and I quote, Alright man, okay. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I do have a question about your last game. Did you break one of your opponent's models? I saw him go sheet white. Hey, shit happens, I get it, But did you bump into his rhino and knock it off the table? Well, he should have been more careful with his positioning. So you did. Okay. Again, I didn't ask why you did it, just did it happen. Well, the floor broke the model. At this point, I was done playing with this game. Jensen, if you don't answer the question, I'm going to just assume you did it on purpose and ban you. No, it was an accident. I bumped it and it fell off and a little piece chipped off. But it can be glued back on. I'm not going to buy him a new rhino. I didn't say you had to. Second question, did you apologise? He started to get that hateful look again. I shouldn't have to, he should just be more careful. Jensen, you should always apologise for stuff like this. Your fault or not, it's the decent thing to do. And I'm not saying you ought to buy him a new model, but at least offer to get him some glue or something. It's like $4. I looked over at the shop employee. We call him Todd, who, at this point, stepped in. Todd, at this point, was over Jensen as well, as he had fielded a number of complaints, most of them about Jensen just being generally rude and having no social skills. But that's not a crime in and of itself. We have a lot of people in the hobby who are a bit odd. Jensen, we don't have to do this, but here's the thing. I have a Word document of every complaint we have ever gotten about you, and we have a business to run. You're making people not want to play and shop here anymore. Here's the deal. You're on strike too, buddy. You don't get another strike. Any more complaints and you're gone. Go apologise to your opponent, get a better attitude, and fix your reputation, or you can't play here anymore. Jensen just got quiet and mumbled something to himself before agreeing and leaving to go and play his game. Todd and I stuck around for the rest of the night, and it looked like he was being a model citizen. Alas, that didn't stay, as we started to see new behaviours pop up instead. We ended up banning him a month later, but that, my friends, is a story for another day. Dude, I want to hear part 3. You can't do this to me. I want to hear part 3. Please. Send it in. I want to hear part 3. We may have to stop using Dave as a name and start using Jensen instead. As long as it's not this guy's real name, you know what I mean? Which apparently it isn't, so that's not too bad. But yeah, I really want to use Jensen instead as a name from now on. So guys, when you're writing in a hobby nightmare, if you're going to be doing an arsehole in this, it's Jensen. It's not a well-used name, and it's, you know, it's not referring to anybody in particular. Alright, cool. And we will have a lot less Daves driving home from work going, not all Daves are bad, all the time. Okay, cool, awesome. I'm kind of fearful there that Jensen in this story has some mental issues that perhaps aren't being taken into account, but I'm not there in the story, so I can only read it as what it is. Sounds like he's got some issues though, but at the same time, as I've said before, having mental issues doesn't give you free license to be a dick. It doesn't, right? You know, it doesn't. It's not an excuse, alright? We're all here to support you, we're all here to help you, but I'm not here to enable you being an asshole to people around you because you think that you can get away with it because you've got ADHD or some other nonsense that you've, you know, diagnosed yourself with. Again, it is a real problem. You know, if you get diagnosed, all power to you, man. And if you definitely think you've got it, go and get yourself diagnosed. Go to a doctor. I've got friends who've done that. They've got up and gone to a doctor. They've gone to a therapist for a session or two, and they've gone, yeah, you've got ADHD. Or, no, you don't have ADHD. You've got this other thing going on. Or, no, you don't have anything. You're just having a really bad time at the moment, and we need to work on your personality traits. Done. Right? You know, it's very, very simple. Anyway, moving on. Newsham says, hey, North. I needed to get this one off of my chest, and yes, I have changed my name. Everything about this submission, in terms of names and places, is changed. I am a current Games Workshop manager. Oh, wow. Normally we get things from GW people after they leave. I have been in this job for a few years now as a manager, based in the UK, and that's about as far as I'm comfortable narrowing it down. I decided to write this to you after having several really negative experiences that have made me question my time here at the company. And after speaking to other managers who've gone through almost the exact same things, I feel I can send this to you and explain it to you and explain what had happened without it even narrowing down who I am if head office come looking. That's how prevalent some of these issues and behaviours are. Wow. Wow, okay. So basically, you felt that you couldn't write in because telling me your experience, somebody from GW might see this and know who you are, right? But because these things happen to so many managers, it wouldn't even narrow it down. Okay. I'm with you. Just the way you wrote that was a bit higgledy-piggledy, but yeah, I'm with you. It is, and was, a shock to the system when these things first started happening to me. I have always really loved Warhammer from secondary school onwards, really. I have a massive army of salamanders and space wolves. Sorry. No need to apologise for finding space wolves cool. You like what you like. Just because I don't like them, you don't need to apologise to me. It's one of my pet peeves, dude. Don't apologise. Like what you like. I'm allowed to not like what you like, you know? And you're allowed to like what I don't like. And when I applied to Games Workshop, I didn't honestly think I'd get in. I got an interview and went to the store in a suit and tie, sat down and told them that I wanted to grow the business and expand the hobby in the local area, then laid out a few plans to do just that, including building a school club at the local schools and pooling them into a league with different teams to play in different stores, not mine of course, around the local area. Basically, I knew I couldn't play games at the store, so I wanted to be the NFL to their team franchises. Think about it. NFL teams don't play at the NFL stadium, do they? They have their own stadiums. Alright, so the teams in our local area would play in their own venues, but I can organise the competition with official Games Workshop backing and treat our Games Workshop store as the HQ for the league. so meetings could take place here, and everybody got their models from my store. Dude, that's genius. That's genius. This really worked out in the long run, but I'll get back to that later. The recruitment analyst, does it say there? The recruitment analyst and the recruitment guy and the manager really liked that idea, and when I got a call saying that I had the job, I was ecstatic. I literally ran downstairs at my house and hugged my mum, as I wouldn't need to live with her anymore, and we could finally both get some peace. My first few years had a few bumps, sure. Mainly that I was quiet in a lot of training sessions with other managers, only speaking up to toe the company line and things like that. Only after watching your videos later do I now realise that some of the questions I was asked at these early seminars and weekends away were actually testers to see if I fit the mould of a Games Workshop manager. One wrong answer and I'd be labelled as a problem. How do I know this? I made a friend at one seminar who was there for the first time, Ryan, a lovely guy and an obsessive Black Templars player running his own store. We would swap numbers and chat at the bar. His store was not far from mine, and so we started swapping war stories, hanging out after work, and generally helping each other along in our careers. I was seeing growth in my store, and so was he, and so we were both pretty happy chappies. I did notice, though, that Ryan had a bit of an independent streak. Nothing major, but he was strong enough to speak his mind, and I really admired this about him. When we went to our next seminar, and he was asked the dreaded question, why do you think we don't really do games in stores anymore? He thought for a moment, turned up his chin, and with his arms folded, and said, I don't. I think we should allow games in our stores, at least small ones, mainly so new people coming in can actually see what a game in progress is like, and know what it looks like. Ugh, another manager sighed as he rolled his eyes. That's what an intro game is for, he said condescendingly. Ryan held up a finger to cut him off. Actually, no it isn't. An intro game should be run as an introduction to the hobby, but there are things a natural game of 40k can teach a new customer that an intro game cannot. Mainly, how it feels to be around a table with friends playing Warhammer, and what the hobby actually looks like. If you get a good group of folks in your store and make it clear to them that they are playing at a Games Workshop and they need to abide by and make it look good for outsiders, you can make a serious wedge. Unquote. He's right. He's right. Completely right. If you're a Games Workshop manager or a store manager and you want to advertise the game of Warhammer 40,000, cultivate good players and make them sign a code of conduct. Right? I'm serious. Make them sign a code of conduct. Say, listen, you're in Games Workshop, okay? You're at a Games Workshop, and so you're representing me, this hobby, and this store. You will abide by these behaviours, or you will not play here. That's it, right? You are the advertisement to new people coming into the store. You're a vital part of the ecosystem of the hobby if you play in my store. Not only does that give their customers ownership of what they're doing, but it makes them feel included, and it makes them feel like the hobby is this actual being that they're being a part of, which it is, right? And any problem people, you hold up that thing that they signed and you say, listen man, you fucking signed this. If you can't abide by it, leave. That's it. You've given me power to get rid of you. Leave. Easily done, man. It's a set of rules everyone can abide by. That's a really good way of putting it as well. Is that a normal game, an introduction game's fine, but most of the time in the intro game, the Games Workshop manager is gesticulating and making it Hollywood for you. He's toning down the rules, and it's fine. It's fine, you know. A good intro game should run like kind of like watching the opening movie to Dawn of War 1. Do you know what I mean? It should play out like that. But that's not the real hobby, is it? The real hobby is when you look over a table over there and a bunch of lads and girls are laughing about the game that's going on and high-fiving and having a good time. That's the hobby. So that's the actual introduction game for me. I'll run you an introduction, but go over there with my trusted customers and have a chat about what the game is like. Make your own community. That's what Games Workshop stores should do. Games Workshop stores should operate at a loss. Most of them do, right? Most of them do, I'm telling you now. But they should operate at a loss. They should be there as hubs to bring people into the hobby. Yes, they make a bit of money. The money that they make should just pay for the staff. That's it. The staff, the rent, power, water, that's it. Right? Everything else they don't care about. It should be a store where you suck people into the hobby. Anyway. Is this what you do in your store? The trainer asked. I knew Ryan's answer before he said it. I was begging him to just say no. Mentally, of course. Of course, he said. I knew he was pretty much done at that point. By the looks in the room and the way the trainer moved swiftly on without addressing what Ryan had said at all. A few days later, I get a text from Ryan saying he has been called into a disciplinary meeting for his conduct at the recent training seminar. Fucking weird. And he was gutted too. When he went, it turned out it was all about this little exchange. Ryan again pleaded his case, but apologised if anybody was offended by it in any way. He was told that holding his finger up when somebody else was talking was seen as a very disrespectful moment that people had talked about after the session. Basically, they were bitching about him. You know. He was let off, but this was a serious shot across the bow. He started getting phone calls about his store performance, despite being in the green week by week. He was hounded over stock levels despite them being generally fine. He was visited 2 times a week by trainers in plain clothes, who spent time in the store, walking around, obviously watching what he was doing, before making their introductions in a cheery manner about an hour or 2 later. Dude, that is scummy. That's undercover police. That's like... They're trying to catch him out, dude. They really are. He was even accused of stealing 10 quid, which was missing from the banking one week, like outright accused of stealing, and that they would have to have another disciplinary meeting, despite Ryan stating he'd whack a tenner in the till himself to solve the issue, so clearly he wasn't stealing. He didn't need the tenner. He eventually found the tenner in the back room, as it had obviously slipped out whilst he was taking the banking tray out to be counted. It has almost happened to me more than once, but they treated him like he was a criminal and like he was lying. He was not sleeping, was not eating healthily, and in the end, he turned up to my store in a right state. He told me he was quitting and that he'd gotten a job as an IT consultant. Finally, putting that degree to good use, he said. I was really happy for him, but also upset to be losing him. He was my support network, really. We were still friends, but I will never forget what he told me on the way out of the door on that warm June evening. Be careful, man. With me gone, the Eye of Sauron will now be falling on you. He smiled as he said it and clapped me on the back before walking to get his train. But he was a real prophet, really. It was my own fault, though. When speaking to the trainer in my own store when he came to visit, Ryan came up in conversation, and my trainer made a remark that we were well rid of people like him. That's a little harsh, I said, standing up for my friend. I couldn't keep my mouth shut. He was a good guy and a decent fellow to talk to as well. The trainer looked up from his paperwork with a stern glare and then went back to his work. That's it then, I thought. I am now a problem, just like Ryan was. Now things did not start getting bad straight away. In fact, things went on being alright for quite a while, to the point that I thought I was getting away with it. But to be honest, the pointed questions at me in training seminars made me think that yes, they were now targeting me. In the end, I started shopping around for another job, and actually found one in the US with a software development company. I loved everything about their style of work, and that I could live and work in the US from home with qualifications that I already had. I was so lucky in that when the phone call started from head office, when I started getting grilled over for my performance as a manager, when I had infiltrators, quote unquote, coming into my store as plainclothes trainers, I was already in the process of accepting that other job offer. In all honesty, it was Ryan who coached me through the process, telling me to get a new job now rather than waiting for Games Workshop to take mine from me. So, here is the twist. I am still at Games Workshop and the job offer from the US is on the table. I can get over there to work because I actually have a US passport through my mother. I told them, that this was a big move, and the new company said not to worry and to take a few weeks to think it over, but they'd love to have me. That happened on Friday, and today is Sunday. What would you do, North? I know it seems like a simple answer, but this is a massive move for me. I'm not the kind of person who makes big jumps like this. When I ask other managers if they are treated this way by HQ, a lot of the time, the newer ones say, yeah, sometimes. Whilst older managers tell me flat out that they once were treated like this years ago, but they are not treated that way now. So maybe this is just maybe this is just a ritual all managers go through at some point. Kind of like how you talk about YouTube grilling your channel for a bit before moving on. If so, am I walking away from a job that I love, stepping into the unknown? Thanks for any advice you can give me. I love you a long time, Newsham. Okay. I get what you're saying about maybe this is a passing behaviour by Games Workshop. Maybe they're just putting you through the grill to make sure you suit their needs, and then they leave you alone. I think it does happen. I think as a GW manager, you have to be very, very, very careful, because you will get to a point where they will start to grill you. They'll start to try and figure you out. You know what I mean? Whether you're a good fit there. And if you refuse to go into the box, if you're one of those things if you're very independent, they will start to file away your edges. And if they can't do that, they'll just find a way to get rid of you. Normally by introducing stress to you until you leave. That's normally what they do, right? It happened to me, and it's happened to... How many managers is this now that it's happened to on our channel? Right? 7? 8? Something like that. Over the last 4 years, who've written in. So I would say, if this is rubbing you the wrong way, and you don't think they share the same values that you do, and it's ruining your hobby, get out of there. Take this other job. Seriously. That's what I would do. I would take the other job. If it's me, if you're asking me what I would do now, I would take the other job. If it's me. Quite simple, really. I know it sounds like I'm being flippant here, but, you know, if it's a really good opportunity, dude, jobs come and go. And at the end of the day, your job at Games Workshop Retail is just that. It's a retail job. Your job as a Games Workshop manager should not be your final job. It's low pay, right? It's really low pay. And you may make money enough that you can just survive. And if you get a good partner, like a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, you can get a flat or even a house together. That's a mortgage, you know, you get things like that. But you're never going to make good money. You're not making good money at Games Workshop. You're making okay money. You're making 20 to 35 grand a year before tax as a Games Workshop manager. Right? If that. If that. If you're new, you're making less than that. A lot less. Okay? So, that is where I am. I would say, listen, man, if you're a young man, and now is the time. I think now is the time for you. The universe is telling you there's another job in the state that you can go and get that's going to pay well and give you the work-life balance quality that you need. Go and take that job and have a good time in the United States. That's what I would say to you. Alright? Also, if you're straight and you have a British accent, you will clean up in the States. Women-wise. Dude, get over there and have fun. Okay? I think you've had your Games Workshop adventure. This is like me. I had my Games Workshop adventure, which is why I don't regret it now. I used to really regret working at Games Workshop. I used to kick myself for accepting the job. Because it ruined the hobby for me, and it ruined my perception of what Games Workshop was. I hated them for years. Years. And I mean hate, with a capital H. Hated them. For how they treated me. And how they went about, you know, doing what they did with me. Absolutely despised them. But now, through therapy and life and time and this channel, I've realised, you know what? It was a good thing to go through. Because now I've seen how the sausage is made, you know? And I get to make a discerning decision to cut Games Workshop out of my hobby. They don't exist in my hobby, right? Fuck them. They don't exist. Hobby and Games Workshop are two different things. They really are. Warhammer and Games Workshop are two different things, in my opinion. You know? And I got this channel too. Like, this channel started with me telling you my experiences at Games Workshop. You know? So, I got this channel. That's the biggest gift I've been given, aside from my daughter. I'm a missus. Don't tell her. But the channel is one of the best things that ever happened in my life. One of the best. Been so enriching. And that is something that has been born from the ashes of my time at Games Workshop. Right? The Games Workshop tree died, and from the rot, a new tree grew, and it's this channel. And it's a bigger, stronger, better tree than the other one. So, you know, I honestly think your Games Workshop adventure is over. You've had it. You've done it. You worked there. You had fun. Right? Now it's time to get out strike while the iron is hot, in my opinion. You've got a new good job that really seem to want you. Then go. Then go. Because Games Workshop generally don't want you. They don't care about you. This other company wants you, go. That's my advice, anyway. Anyway, love you a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow. I love it when we get to finish the video on a victory screen. Hurrah! I'll speak to you tomorrow for another set of Hobby Nightmares, or maybe a 40k run, depending on if I've got time to write a script or not. We'll see. I love you all. Speak to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye now.